presentation of the Crooked River Radio Network. This program is rated for all audiences.
Tales of the Lore Hunter is sponsored by CrookedRiverRadio.com. Crooked River Radio is an internet radio station that is live 24/7 playing rock and adult contemporary top 40 hits from the 60s through the 90s. You can find us on Live 365, Simple Radio, Roku, Radio Garden, and even Alexa, as well as our website. Come on and join us on the Crooked River.
You are entering the lair of the Folklore Hunter with Beth, Roose, and Pat Morrow. Once you pass this point, beware.
Good morning.
Good morning. Here we are, the Lore Hunters, and we are ready to give you a fabulous show today. We're going to be talking about across America. The way you give the intro, I love, but we'll be talking about folklore across America today. And is what you're seeing a monster? Or are you just imagining it? But lots of people ask that, but with tech and with the inventions that are coming out, we are able to tell a story. And so we are trying to sort fact from fiction. And as America and across the world has more rural areas encroaching on wilderness, there's more close encounters being seen. So we are going to be talking about what we call the a plesiosaur, or what everyone knows as Nessie and the Loch Ness Monster. They're actually across the world, and there are 7 lakes that have the same description as Nessie. And so we're going to be looking at that. And since we're talking about Nessie, I think we might as well do Nessie first. And that loch, the Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands, it's like 23 miles south of Inverness, and it's interconnected with several other bodies of water. But what's really cool is it's 755 feet deep at the deepest point, but the visibility is so awful down there. So many people have tried to dive that and looking for Nessie. But the one thing that they haven't been able to see it except by radar, and that's to me that's seeing it. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think that anything that you can see by radar is definitely for me. So I don't know how, like I said,
that lake is not real. I thought that lake was a lot deeper than that. That's not even as deep as Erie.
No, it's not. No. And most of the lakes that these are in, including Lake Champlain with Champ, are even less than that. Those are like 400 feet deep. So, it's strange how it all works together, but most of them have a geological anomaly in the lake, and that's the channels that run to the ocean, ancient channels that run to the ocean. So, and we'll talk about that as we get into it. But with Nessie, I think the first picture of Nessie was in 1930, some doctor or something, but that has proved to be a fake. Darn, everyone wanted it to be so, but it did turn out to be fake. And the tourists that go to see hope for a glimpse of the Loch Ness Monster. I can't imagine how much that revenue that generates every year. Heck, I wanted to order a t-shirt when I saw the t-shirts online.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
It would be cool. So, Now, not in all the lakes do they see the monster on the creature. I'm not going to call him a monster, the creature on land, but in a couple like Loch Ness and Champ in Vermont, they have actually seen, there has been sightings on land. Now, here's the thing I find difficult with that is the flippers are used to undulate through, the water. So those flippers would have to be pretty darn strong to be able to hold the weight of a plesiosaur. So especially, most of them are saying this is a 20 to 30 foot creature. So I don't know how flippers could hold up when they're designed to undulate. So I don't know. I find that one really tough to believe. But nonetheless, when we get to Champ, you'll hear the lady swear that she saw a green one and a brown one. So apparently what she was drinking was different each day. So
wine one day, vodka the next.
Yes, that's right. I don't know. She must have had some Merlot. I don't know. It is kind of funny.
Definitely gotta have sangria.
Yes, definitely. I don't know. I actually believe there could be a creature. I'm not sure if it's a plesiosaur, but in my books, that's what I put. So, especially the lake in Patagonia, which of course is where the Galactic Federation headquarters is at, is in Patagonia, and they have a lake down there that has the same thing. And they keep saying it's 50 foot long, and you'll see the images of it. It made me, it went through the water like a snake. So I'm wondering if that one could be like a giant eagle. I'm all right. A giant eel going through the water. So I don't know. Now, sturgeon can grow up to 20 feet long. So you can't rule out sturgeon. So, I'm not quite sure what to say about that. But why don't we show the first clip and see what you think?
Okay, well, we can do that. You're listening and watching the Lore Hunters on Crooked River Radio. I'll get this all at once. I've only been here 3 years. We'll be back.
You're so funny. You're so funny.
Zoom in a little more. To the left. There. Back a bit. Hand right. Oh my God! Did you see that?
I saw it, and it looks like a plesiosaur. That's for sure.
Yeah, that was.
Now, in all fairness, that could have been a seal, but I'm leaning towards not.
That you bring up an interesting point with that seal comment. Some of that that I've seen almost looks like it could be a seal or a platypus, something like that.
Right.
And maybe it's a distant relative. Who knows?
Well, the ocean is so large, and we have only scratched the surface of of looking for what creatures lie beneath the sea. And so up to 8,000 years ago, Loch Ness had a path to the sea. So I'm not so sure that it wasn't a sea creature that got trapped into the fresh lake, and when it must have adapted somehow, is kind of how I see it. Now, since it has that interesting geological formation where you can actually see via radar the ancient seabeds that tunneled to the sea from the lake. Who's to say that there isn't a way for them to get in through a cave or anything. I mean, they haven't been able to find anything yet, but they just, you know, they've been doing just LiDAR. Of course, everyone and their mother does Google, you know, Google Earth to see if they can find Loch Ness Monster on Google Earth. So I'm sure he'll smile nice for Google. So I don't know. It's just, it's hard because of the visibility that's so poor in the lake. So even if you send divers down, they're going to encounter poor visibility, which, you know, what can you say? But if you go visit the Highlands, you're going to have a good time because it's beautiful there and you can get a good souvenir. So,
And maybe even a picture.
that's right. Do we have another clip on Nessie?
The next one is Turkey.
Okay.
That we got
So, yeah, let's jump to Lake Van in Turkey. It's in, I don't know how to pronounce it. They call it Canaver or something like that. It's the geological formations around that lake are mountains and pine forests. It has a unique geological formation too. The lake is only 440 feet deep, so it's a lot less than Loch Ness. But it first gained attention in 1977 and was filmed, and that's the film we're going to be showing here. I think personally that one looks like a sea snake. An extra big sea snake. So it must be eating well. But, you know, one of the things to remember when you're looking at this is how big the lake is and could it support at least 5 to 100 others so that there's not inbreeding and they eventually die off. So looking at the lake in Turkey, it's a big lake, but could it support, you know, a family or a colony? Because you need an awful lot to prevent inbreeding. So, and that's going to be the same for any of the lakes you look at. So I don't mean to sound like I'm skeptical because I believe there is a creature. I don't know what it is, but I believe there is a creature there. I honestly believe in Loch Ness, the deepest of the lakes, that it could be a plesiosaur. But again, the same thing. You know, how are they not inbreeding? And is it because there is a tunnel out to the sea that LiDAR or you know, the folks doing sonar have not been able to see? So, you know, that's the only thing I can see is there's got to be a way for them to get to the sea. It was kind of like last week when we talked about the Mammoth Caves being a tunnel system for Bigfoot to travel and follow the crops. So, I hold that mindset that there is a tunnel we're not seeing or a cave system they can go through to get to sea. And then they come back in. Because you go months and months and months of not seeing it or hearing of it, anyone, you know, any visitor taking images or you know, talking about it.
This is true.
You know, that's just my thoughts about it. So, anyways, so let's play the Lake Van.
All right, we can do that. You're listening to the and watching the Tales of the Lore Hunter. Lore Hunters. Hers, S. I see something I got to correct on the screen here. It says Lore Hunter. But you're listening to and watching the Tales of the Lore Hunter with Beth Roose on Crooked River.
The Loch Ness Monster, Turkish style. A fabled monster from the depths, apparently captured on video. A swift-swimming beastie, estimated to be 15 meters long. Living here in the depths of Lake Van
En
in
son
eastern
noktada
Turkey.
bu
Van
bulunduğumuz
University
yer
teaching
yani
assistant
Canik
Unal Kozak
mevkiinde
claims he
birleşiyordu.
captured the footage after
İşte bu
staking out the
düğümlenen
lake.
birleşen yerde
Frequent sightings
beklemeye
convinced
karar
him it
verdim.
existed. He succeeded where other cameramen have failed. There have been sightings aplenty since it surfaced 2 years ago.
Van Gölü demek
No
ki
less a
böyle
person
bir
than the
yaratığa
governor of
sahip.
Van is
Bunu
among
Van
those who swear
canavarı,
they've
Van
seen
Gölü
the
canavarı
beast.
olarak değerlendiriyoruz.
Just what the monster is isn't clear, although there are plenty of theories. Some say a money-making hoax. Others in the world of research take it more seriously.
Yine akla gelen şey dev bir
It
deniz
may not be
sürüngeni
long before the
cinsinden
enigma is cleared up.
bir yaratığa
The
benziyor.
video has been sent to Britain's Cambridge University for study. And internationally famous French marine biologist Jacques Cousteau is apparently considering an examination of the eastern Turkish lake. His aim to get to the bottom of the lake and the monster mystery.
So one thing I'm going to point out about this this clip in particular is no one has seen gills on any of these creatures. No one has ever reported scales or gills. They say the same thing over and over, that it is smooth. They don't see fur or scales. So that means that it would have to come to the surface to breathe. And okay, that also lends a little bit of doubt if that there's not more folks seeing, there's not more sightings of this creature.
That actually turns that in. That would turn that into a mammal then.
Yes,
To have
that's
to
right.
breathe like that.
And that's what a plesiosaur would be. Because even if it was some sort of extinct whale, which is what they're saying champ could be, it's a whale that really didn't go extinct, but it's along the lines of a beluga whale. Beluga whales come up too for air because they're a mammal. And so even if it was a whale or a plesiosaur, they would have to come up for air. So, you'd think there'd be more sightings.
Yeah, you would think. But who knows?
What can you say? Somewhere, one of the other tapes that I listened to for this creature in Lake Van is that the monster only seemed to move in one direction. So it doesn't, undulate through water where you see, flippers or like a snake back and forth. So that would lead one to believe more of the whale theory. It's an extinct whale. So what we thought was extinct. And it also seemed to breathe, but have long breaths. So maybe they hold their breath longer, who knows? But look how long a hippo can stay down. A hippo can stay down, I think, almost an hour. They can stay down on the bottom of a river. So perhaps it's built more like a hippo.
It's very, very possible.
Well, I'm just throwing ideas out there. I can't wait to hear your ideas. We want you to, for sure, send us an email, Beth at crookedriverradio.com and Pat. Send one to us, or when you can comment on this on the video podcast on Apple or Spreaker or whatever your podcast you're watching this on. But whatever you're doing, don't forget to like us. Up in the right hand corner, there's if you click on those little bars, there's a place for you to like and follow us. So we would appreciate that as we bring more tales of what looks like folklore, but with technology might be turning into a factual creature and not just folklore. So that's kind of what I think. Okay, so which one shall we do next, Pat?
We got the Canada thing. Okopogo.
Okopogo. Oh, everyone. everyone likes Ogopogo. It's in British Columbia, and of course, that's such a beautiful, beautiful area of Canada. So a lot of people talk about Ogopogo, and I would like to go there. That's one place I would like to go. And the history of it is fascinating. It combines like the beliefs of the indigenous people there, and also misunderstandings by early settlers. Now, it is true that Lewis and Clark actually had documented it. Meriwether Lewis documented that he saw this creature. He said it was a bloodthirsty serpentine monster. And what can you say? And then, but the indigenous folks say that it's the spirit of the lake. It's a protective spirit of the lake, and it takes care of the lake. So they say it's a 15-foot green and cream color. So, it's small comparatively speaking with the other creatures that we're talking about today. But I would really like to go look at that one. I've already been to see, try to find Champ, but couldn't find him. So I would really like to try Ogopogo.
Well, he was hiding good that time.
He was hiding good. Yes, he was. And who's the other one? Oh, Teddy Roosevelt was up there. Teddy, he's got his shotgun handy, ready for anything. So he actually was up there in British Columbia, and he was at the lake. Now, his sighting, he said, was a sea snake. So, which it was only 15 feet, so that is plausible. But, for once, Teddy didn't kill it and hold it up and say, hey, look what I got. Ogopogo. So he was big on, protecting the rights of the indigenous people, and that to them it was a spirit, and so he knew not to do anything catastrophic to Ogopogo. So how about we watch Ogopogo?
All right, we'll be back. You're listening and watching the Lore Hunters. We'll be right back.
Legends of lake monsters have been around for a very long time, with Loch Ness being perhaps the most well-known example. Ogopogo is another lake monster from Okanagan Lake in British Columbia, Canada, with a long history. In fact, the First Nation people of the area, who are one of the earliest known inhabitants of the area, have legends about the Ogopogo lake monster dating back to before the settlers came to America and Canada. These legends and stories add some credibility to the possible existence of the Ogopogo creature. Ogopogo has a much longer history than many lake monsters. Then there's this video. This video provides the most credible evidence I've seen of the existence of Ogopogo. Enjoy.
Now, an ancient lake, a monster long thought to exist, finally caught on camera.
What is it?
I think it's a 120-foot fast-moving serpentine snake.
This is just the latest report of a monstrous creature in the lake.
We've had multiple sightings here of 2 or 3 Ogopogo in Lake Okanagan. Perhaps there's more than one.
A creature which for centuries has been known to and feared by local tribespeople.
Ogopogo is the English word for Nkaka'it. It means the sacred one of the water.
The sighting has amazed and terrified locals.
This experience has had a huge impact on our family. My son won't go swimming past the sandbar anymore, and I definitely am not going in the water.
The first thought is, what is that? And then the second thought is that kid in danger?
Canada, home to over 20% of the fresh water in the world. British Columbia is the land of lakes with over 20,000 of them. June 1st, 2019. On a hot summer's day, store owner Jim LaRocque and his family head to the lake.
Yeah, it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 30 degrees out, Celsius. The water was like glass.
Jim's son paddleboards when something horrific emerges from the water.
All of a sudden, I just heard the swooshing sound of something, and I thought my son was just on his paddleboard, and something went right behind him.
A huge and menacing presence is in the water just feet away.
Eventually, my son turns, and he actually sees a flipper coming out of the water and smash down in the water. And of course, he starts booking it back on his paddleboard. Yeah.
His son just manages to get away, but Jim will never forget the vision of the creature, estimated at 120 feet long.
The underside of it was like white, and then the outside was dark.
Scientists are at a loss to explain what Jim saw.
It's like 1, 2, 3, like 7 fins, and you could see something coming right up out of the water. I mean, it's so flat. There's no way this is the wind or a log.
The first thought is, what is that? And then the second thought is that kid in danger?
This huge lake stretching 80 miles dates back to the Ice Age, and the oldest known inhabitants are the Sayux people, who have inhabited the lake shore for many thousands of years. Their descendants, the West Bank First Nation, have long talked about the lake being home to a giant creature.
Ogopogo exists in our stories, and we have a word for him. If he wasn't real and he didn't exist, we wouldn't have a word for him. We call it Nhachait. It means the sacred one of the water.
They believe Nhachait is not a normal animal. He is a kind of animal god.
Because he's so sacred, he doesn't show himself to just anybody. When you see things from another realm, it's a blessing.
Local historian Bill Stachek believes the creature is a real animal, unknown to science.
When I first moved to Kelowna a number of years ago, I was pretty skeptical about something being in the lake. But I had a sighting off the bridge in 1978.
He took a photograph of what he believes is the creature's head.
It was taken at 130 meters. Looking at it, you can actually see an eye and you can see the mouth here. It was ironic all the time I've spent on boats that here I'm sitting on my patio and I get a picture. We believe it is a predator. We believe that it feeds on fish. There's even been sightings that it could take a duck from the top of the water.
Local scientist Raphael Nowick grew up around the lake and is determined to get to the bottom of what is in its depths.
I've always had a natural curiosity for wanting to explore and learn more about Okanagan Lake, especially because of its immense size and the fact that it has never been fully explored. And along with that, obviously, comes the topic of Ogopogo.
He's heading to an area where a number of sightings have been made.
Okay, so we're here at Squally Point, where there are several underwater cave formations known to exist. So we're going to take a look at those and see this is one of the habitat that Ogopogo may live in.
Nowick launches a remotely operated underwater vehicle.
Here we go.
To explore the lake's cave-like formations.
Just approaching what looks like a cave feature here. So this is a potential habitat. A large creature or an unknown creature may be able to hide in. A few years ago, I was doing an underwater investigation, and I came across some interesting formations on the bottom sediment, which looked like a pattern of footprints. The footprints suggest that there may be an ambush predator that may walk along the lake floor and then push off, creating those indentations in the lake sediment.
Large footprints on the lake floor seem bizarre, but similar giant dinosaur footprints were found in the mountains of Morrison, Colorado, where there was once a prehistoric sea.
Scientists are still discovering on a yearly basis new species on the planet that have not been known about before, and I'm just open to exploring this mystery.
Coming up, are these lake monsters Jurassic throwbacks?
They've been around since before the dinosaurs. They look like they belong with the dinosaurs.
And in a Chinese hospital, what has this man just laid?
Looks like a huge white egg. So where in the world did that come from?
We'll have to find that out later.
In a lake in the Canadian wilderness, a young boy manages to escape from a giant water beast. Marine biologist Eric Hovland analyzes the footage and is reminded of a Jurassic giant known as a plesiosaur and of a creature repeatedly sighted in Scotland, the Loch Ness Monster.
Nessie comes to mind right away. Was that a plesiosaur that lives in Loch Ness? Is there something similar in this lake?
Savage plesiosaurs ruled the Jurassic waters of Earth 65 million years ago. Some investigators speculate that Nessie is a plesiosaur whose ancestors entered the loch from the sea.
However, recent science and discoveries have shown us that perhaps it isn't a plesiosaur.
Scientists have been studying the DNA that they've collected from Loch Ness to find out what animals are living beneath the surface.
That study by researchers from New Zealand examined traces of DNA in the loch. They found something they weren't expecting.
They did find a lot of eel DNA.
Earliest eels date back to over 100 million years ago, when some of the largest predators ever existed. Prehistoric eels evolved into at least 800 different species, some of them enormous.
Some of those eels can grow close to 30 feet long. That could easily be mistaken for a monster.
But the creature filmed by Jim in Canada would dwarf the largest known eel. Marine biologist Danny Washington considers if the footage shows another type of river monster known to inhabit Canadian waters.
There have been a lot of eyewitness reports of eel-like fishes swimming through Canadian lakes, but what they're seeing might be a sturgeon. Lake sturgeon can grow to be quite large. These animals can easily be confused for a monster swimming through a lake.
When swimming, the sturgeon's rigid spine often breaks the water in a similar way to what is seen in the footage.
There have been some massive sturgeons discovered. For example, in China, they found a sturgeon that was half a ton. That's 1,000 pounds.
But no known sturgeon has ever come close to the 120-foot monster captured on camera.
That's about the size of 5 sturgeons lined up all together.
Whatever this monster is, some local people are now refusing to enter the water.
This experience has had a huge impact on our family. My son won't go swimming past the sandbar anymore, and I definitely am not going in the water.
People are still continuing to report sightings. Just last year, there were 3 sightings in 3 weeks.
Until we get a carcass or some DNA samples, we're not going to know exactly what it is.
In my opinion, the video makes it clear that something was, or is, out there. Exactly what is still hard to say, but I think it's something more than just a large fish or a group of otters. If you watch the video of the creature swimming carefully, you can even see the flippers coming up out of the water then going back in as it swims. While I personally don't think the creature has any sort of spiritual properties, I think it's very likely there could be some other type of aquatic creature that we simply haven't identified yet. After all, we're finding new things in the oceans and lakes all the time.
I agree. That's some.
I wonder why they wouldn't want to go back in the water.
Imagine. I wouldn't even go close to the water. So I would not let my child in that water. No way, until they figure out what it is. Because that over 100 feet. Wow. No. Nope.
No spirit of adventure, Beth.
I know. I'd rather watch like Reptilicus on B Sci-Fi Channel. I feel safe then. So, okay, but that one definitely, that was a great image that they got. The one the guy had that he took from his patio, to me, looked like a seal. Just saying. Because we couldn't see the whole body, only the head. which sure looked like a seal to me. But hey, I'm not a marine biologist, so what can you say? So
we have been issued a challenge.
Good.
By Miss Ellie.
All right, Ellie.
She said, "Come on, Pat, I'll jump in the water if you do, but you go first."
Well, okay. We can all head to Vermont and hop on the
I think there's two chances of that happening. I think there's. She's just wanting to use me for monster bait.
All right, so let's head to Patagonia, Argentina.
Okay, that'll be fun.
Well, it's in all my books, so that's where they're located, is in Patagonia.
If you're ready, we'll go there. Mm-hmm. You're listening and watching the Tales of the Lore Hunters. Notice the S?
Very good.
Yeah, we'll be right back. Okay, that ended quick.
That did. There were some, now that close up of the headshot, that reminded me of a snake, not of not a plesiosaur. So, yeah. But the other images sure looked like it could be a plesiosaur. It may have been just the direction. His head may have been straight up, so you wouldn't see any arches. I don't know, why am I trying to give it excuses? But anyway, in my books, we certainly do not see a plesiosaur in that lake, but there is channels for this lake in Argentina, in Patagonia, channels and meets other waterways to the sea, to the Pacific. So that one I could so see, come at something coming in and out of the lake. That's a real strong possibility for the one in the Andes. So I'm going to go with, I believe that one. I don't know why, but because it's more plausible. There are direct waterways connecting to the ocean. Yeah. So it has a way in and out. And of course, in my new book, we talk about a plesiosaur protecting Morgan and Ellie and Clan.
You have to wonder if maybe the lakes that are here, if there isn't some way of ways that we don't know that there could be that they could infiltrate all of them or travel from one to the other.
So yeah, as long as they're deep enough, that's for sure. The one in Patagonia is a little over 600 feet deep. So
Yeah.
almost as deep as Loch Ness. I don't know. It just, for me, there's got to be a big enough colony of them somewhere, and it can't be in the lake. So they're getting in and out into the ocean some way to find others to mate with.
Ellie
That's
thinks
all
it's
I'm saying.
tunnels. Ellie
Well,
thinks,
like the Loch Ness has the ancient tunnels, and Lake Dan has the ancient tunnels. So, and there are ancient tunnels in Lake Champlain too. So, and there was waterways that went to the Great Lakes, and we know that there's you can follow the Great Lakes to the ocean.
Yep.
Through, well, once upon a time, it connected to the ocean. So, I don't know. It just seems plausible to me that we don't know everything yet. And, as in Lake Champlain, when Samuel D. Champlain was on his way to Canada, he mapped the lake. And back then, he documented he saw a creature, and then it was only sparsely populated in 1609. So, but he became the first to record seeing a monster in Lake Champlain. So, that legend's sure been going a long way. He documented it as like a 20-foot serpent that had a big barrel body, but the head of a horse. And you hear that a lot as you're reading through testimonies, that it has the head of a horse. So, and then they say that a torso, the barrel, seems to be the size of a pony. That's how big around. So, and everyone says the same thing. It is smooth, no scales, no fur, 4 flippers, and no tail. Well, they've never seen the tail. So, I don't know. It's they say it's long and sleek and prehistoric looking. So to me, that's screaming plesiosaur. Now the clip you're going to see on the Lake Champlain monster also talks about the unique geological formations, and that it was connected to the ocean as short as 8,000 years ago. So, what can you say? The first people in the 1800s that witnessed Champ was workers that railroad from Vermont to New York. So I don't know. There's lots of geologists that have looked at it. They have a 12,000-year-old fossil that resembles kind of a beluga whale, but it was buried in of sediment, and it turned out to be a charlotte whale, which I never heard of it. So it's a prehistoric whale, and that could be what's in. Because you'll see the skeleton of it. It's long, narrow. It looks like it could be from the head we just saw in Patagonia, and the head that we saw in other images. So I'm just saying it could be that way. And whales jump out and breach the water all the time. And that first clip of it breaching the water like a whale would do leads me to believe maybe it's this ancient whale that we're seeing. I don't know. That the whales could swim in brackish water, which gives it time to adapt to fresh water, being in the brackish water. So
I was just going to say something about that. Aren't most of these lakes fresh water though?
Yes,
I thought,
but they were one time brackish. So that would give a ocean migrant time to evolve, such as sturgeon and salmon. They had to evolve.
Yeah.
And if they swim in the ocean and they come into the brackish waters and then swim upstream, to lay eggs. So, I don't know. I'm not sure what to think of that, but there is a way for them to adapt, and it's not fiction, it's historical, because we've got sturgeon and salmon to really prove that. So I don't know, but I know we're getting close on time, so let's go ahead and run the champ.
Okay, we'll be right back. You're listening to and watching, hopefully, the Tales of the Lore Hunters with Beth Roose.
Lake Champlain is home to one of North America's greatest mysteries. Join Small Town Monsters as we explore America's Loch Ness, following researchers, listening to eyewitnesses, and examining the evidence. This is On the Trail of Champ. Many people have seen something unusual on Lake Champlain. From strange humps on the water, to long necks protruding, to glowing eyes in the water at night, the encounters vary. Port Henry, New York resident Frank Horton claims to have seen the creature near Bulwugga Bay.
1980, me and Timmy Arnold were coming in off Whitney Street. Of course, you could see over the lake, because it's higher than the lake. There was no buildings or anything there at the time. I looked down, saw this black thing. I didn't quite understand what it was at first, but I looked at Tim. I said, "You see what I'm seeing?" He says, "Absolutely." He says, "I see exactly what you're seeing." And we watched it dig in the sand and go right out to the lake. So I drove the car down as fast as I could get there. And we got down there right to the beach. And you could see where it dug in the beach. And there's waves like 4 or 5 feet coming off the beach, coming in at shore at the time. It was amazing. It was half the size, at least half the size of a dump truck, at least. It was huge. It was huge. To see that thing that big from that distance was amazing. I said, "That's Champ, bud." I said, "You can't mistake that. That is a plesiosaurus, no doubt, in my mind. You can't miss it." A huge body, had a long neck, and it come right back, and you could see its head perfect. It was a smaller head, the neck was smaller, but the body was huge. It was amazing how big this thing was. And as we were looking at it, it had white spots on it. It was like black with shiny. You could see the fins out to the side, and you could actually. I didn't have a camera at the time. I wished I had, because you never have a camera when you're riding around. You never, it's just something you don't know what to carry. But that day, I wished I had.
Vermont resident Vincent DeTilio had a strange sighting in the 1950s.
We just caught some perch. We brought them up the bank. This was probably maybe a 20-foot cliff type thing. And where we were on top, you could see for miles left and right. All of a sudden I looked out and there was a wake. Coming, a small wake, probably maybe 6 to 8 inches. And all of a sudden, out of the water comes a thing like this, like it looked like a dinosaur. Comes out and goes quite a ways, and made a wake probably, I gotta say, 1.5 feet, maybe even bigger than that. Big one anyway. And he went for probably maybe 20 feet out of the water. He was exposed probably maybe 3 feet, maybe, neck, and had sort of a scaly back. But, other than that, I don't know what it was or where it was, but he was obviously getting fish. The thing went down and we were just stunned. There were 6 of us that saw it, but this was a long time ago, 1958.
Despite general regional familiarity with the monster of Lake Champlain, ridicule and criticism exist for eyewitnesses that come forward. As a result, many are reluctant to do so. But those that do truly believe what they have seen, despite how extraordinary it may sound.
Never put my name on a sign down there like everybody else does. I just kept it to myself. You better believe we saw what we saw. There was no mistake about it. You know, it's just the coolest thing in life, man.
And so we saw the thing and we said, what are we going to tell anybody? Nothing. I'm not telling them what I saw. They won't believe you anyway. So probably 20 years later, maybe 25 years later, everybody started saying these things. And they explained that it was something coming out of the water looking like a dinosaur head. And that's exactly what we saw.
Lorraine Franklin is the owner of Champ's Trading Post, a souvenir shop in West Addison, Vermont. Living in the area has made her all too familiar with people's stories of the creature she named her shop after.
We have had several people that have come in that have had some very interesting stories. People that have stayed here for years or who live in the area. And a lot of them are really reluctant to tell about or to talk about their encounter for fear of retribution of some kind. People thinking that they're crazy or they were drunk or whatever. But there have been several that have come in that were really, really legitimate sounding stories. There was one in particular from someone that we know who was very reluctant, had never told anyone that he had seen Champ back in the 60s when he was working up in Burlington. And he and his buddy were working on a boat and saw basically what was in Sandra Mancey's photo. The head and the neck come up to the boat right close to them to the point that they were like, oh my God, what is that? We don't have a camera. Totally freaked them out. Went home, told his parents about it, and they said, don't you ever say anything about what you saw, because that's just, people won't believe you and they'll think you're crazy. And he has not made it public. He has not said anything. And I've talked to several other people that have been in that same situation. They'll come in because they feel comfortable. They'll kind of talk to me a little bit and see how I feel, and then they'll start to open up a little bit.
Aside from hundreds, if not thousands of eyewitness sightings over the years, there are various photographs and videos that allege to show what some believe is Champ.
Just one frame, you can see the animal here. This is a buoy that's in the lake.
Yeah.
It's about 5 feet out of the water. Mm-hmm. And that white you see in the middle is
a strange cell phone video taken in 2009 near Burlington, Vermont, shows some sort of strange creature swimming in the water. In 1977, a woman named Sandra Mancey would take a photo that would become world famous.
It was a great day. It was great. It was sunny. The wind was blowing a bit, so it wasn't real hot. We had gone for maybe an hour or so up, and my children started getting very antsy in the back seat, and so we decided to stop somewhere and let the children take the shoes and socks off and just wade in the water to blow off some steam. And my husband went back to the car to get the camera. It was a Telly 1-inch dramatic. And while he was gone, I watched a disturbance in the water. And then I saw the head and the neck, the top of the head and neck in that area break the surface of the water. And even then, I am thinking, wow, look at that fish. And then it kept getting taller, more out of the water, and more. And here's the head and the neck and a back. And it was facing to my left. And at this point, I'm just in total awe, trying to figure out what it is. And my husband got back and he's screaming, "Get the children out of the water!" And we got the children went up to the car, and then he helped me up the bank, and when he did, he put the camera in my hand, and I turned around. I watched it turn and look over its back, and then I saw it just kind of get a little fidgety, and it started going down, and then it just submerged, and we went back to the car. We get in the car, and we're like, okay, what did we see?
The Mansi photo is still held up as the best evidence for the existence of a monster in Lake Champlain. Image analysis revealed that no tampering had been done to the photo itself, and that whatever was in the water was truly there that day. Author, researcher, and skeptic Benjamin Radford has extensively researched the Mansi photograph, conducting various experiments to determine what the object in the photo might be. Benjamin believes what Sandra Mansi took a photograph of was no more than a large log or tree trunk propelled to the surface of the water of the lake by currents and wind, a common occurrence in a lake such as Champlain. Many skeptics have argued that a majority of eyewitness sightings can be explained by misidentification of other lake animals, natural phenomenon as a result of weather, wishful thinking on the part of the eyewitnesses, and outright hoaxes. The earliest known Champ hoax was perpetrated at the annual gathering of the American Canoe Association in Willisboro, New York in 1891. A group of men created a 160-foot-long monster which they dragged via towboat through the lake to the shock of the campers at the gathering as a practical joke. If the Champ creature is indeed a biological organism, it would need to adhere to the 50-500 rule, which states that in order for a species to survive, there would need to be 50 specimens in the short term and 500 individuals in the long term. Whether the lake could host that many large creatures is unknown, despite the abundance of fish and food resources found in the lake. Champ researchers Scott Martis and Katie Elizabeth both claim to have had their own sightings of what they believe is Champ.
I was sitting out here, and it was around 7:55 p.m., and I was looking out towards the New York side of the lake, and there's a huge white house out there, a big mansion, and I happened to see these two objects in front of it, and I thought maybe it was two boats just sitting there. So I'm just watching them, and I noticed they just gradually moved to the right. All of a sudden, the one in the front, the neck and head picked up, and then I would say the neck had to be at least 7 to 8 feet in length. And I was in total shock. I couldn't believe what I saw. I mean, how can this animal keep its neck and head up that high out of the water? To me, it was virtually impossible. And when it came up like this, it had its chin up, and the top of the neck, right where the head was, it coiled like a snake. There was like this coil on the top. And it lowered its head and neck, stretched its neck out, and then the hump went down, and the one in the back, I never saw the head and neck on that one. That went down. I cried for 2 hours after that because I couldn't believe what I saw. I tried to get on video, and my camera wouldn't focus, and I'm just lucky that I have gotten, many videos of these animals. I wish I would have gotten that, because that would have been a totally amazing thing, and something that will make history.
On July 9th, 1994, I was at Battery Park in Burlington, which is up on a bluff and overlooks the Burlington Breakwater. I was watching that area at around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I saw this large object come up out of the water, a large greenish black mound, a garbage bag color. And at the top of the mound was a smaller looking object on top of that. It sat there for a few seconds, then it turned apparently to the right, and it was swimming along, bobbing like this, kind of bobbing up and down, and then it stopped, and then it sank like a rock. Later, to try to estimate the size of this thing, I watched for boats coming by, and I saw a boat about the same size as this object go by the same area. Then I went down to Perkins Pier looking for a similar boat and found one, and it was about 15 feet long. So based on that, I decided this object must have been about 15 feet long. And it looked to me like it was swimming on its side with a flipper-like appendage up in the air. And it just swam along and then sank. And some whales do this. They thermoregulate, get rid of excess body heat, or gain body heat by exposing their flippers to the sun. And I think that's what this thing was doing. And I sort of compared it to a leatherback sea turtle, which is roughly the same color. It is the closest living thing that we know of to what they think a plesiosaur was like. I didn't have a camera with me, but I went home that same day and made 2 drawings of both the configurations it was in. And I still have them. So, you know, the drawings is the closest thing I have to reproducing what happened the very day that happened. That is what I consider to be my champ sighting. There you go.
What many of these eyewitnesses describe seems almost dinosaur-like in appearance.
A lot of people believe that Champ is a prehistoric marine reptile, often a plesiosaur. So in the modern day, a lot of people believe that Champ has a long neck and fins sort of like a seal, which is a little bit different from 120, 150 years ago, where Champ would have been more snake-like and maybe not had those seal-like fins. And so that is a lot like a plesiosaur. So the Eco Center is a public museum, and we interpret the Lake Champlain Basin, both the ecology, so the wildlife that lives here, its history, and the opportunities for stewardship, so the ways that the public can take care of Lake Champlain and preserve it for the future. So more often people will actually contact us through our askecho.org, which is just our museum information page, or they'll contact us on Facebook, and usually they'll say that they've seen something. Sometimes they'll share videos with us. We're certainly not a research institute in terms of deciding if video is real or not, or if something's a living animal or not. So really enjoy sharing those stories with the public. We can't really comment on whether they're real or not.
Some believe that the Champ creature is actually an undiscovered species of long-necked turtle, explaining its elusiveness and long lifespan. Large snapping turtles and various other turtle species already inhabit Lake Champlain, so it's theorized that massive turtles might have much of the same behavior. William Dranginis has seen a piece of footage taken over a decade ago, which alleges to show Champ quite vividly.
Back in December of last year, I was able to actually go up to New Jersey and view the footage from Pete Bodette. It was actually taken here at Lake Champlain. I was always curious about it because what I saw in that video seemed to be flippers. And the video in itself is parts and pieces. They were turning the camera on and off. They were having battery problems. But what I believe that they have in that video is a plesiosaur type creature. Just some of the movements of the fins, the flippers that I saw really do show that this thing is a real flesh and blood animal.
Katie has taken various videos over the years she claims to be of Champ.
Right out here, I captured a video a couple years ago, and I saw a dark colored hump rise to the surface of the water, and it started moving like a caterpillar crawling on a table. And it was actually right where this boat is, a little bit past where this boat is turning. So it was between here and the island that you see in the back. It's called Mud Island. And that's where I captured that particular piece of footage, which I think is actually the best video that I have captured. I've captured many videos of these animals here in this particular area called Button Bay. I've seen multiple animals, 2 and 3 in one area. Also, I've gotten a lot of audio recordings of these animals communicating back and forth. And to me, the audio recordings of echolocation, which is something that normally mammals give off echolocation. I don't believe that this, population of creatures in this lake are mammals, because we would see them all the time, since they would be more social and they would need to come up to breathe air
Despite the various competing theories and explanations for Champ, for now, the search continues.
Well, there was a lot packed in that. One. So
yes, there was. I like the turtle theory.
I do love the turtle theory. I do love that because look, there are tortoises big enough to ride in the Galapagos Islands. So, what can you say? All I can say is we go forward to discover more information and stay tuned. But anyway, I will say I am a believer. I tend to believe the plesiosaur, which is kind of what everyone was saying anyway, except for the guy who said it was an eel.
I've always, this world is so huge, let alone the universe, that, I can't believe that we're the only intelligent life there. And that's why I'm thinking, impossible. That's why I'm always open to the stuff I hear in these kind of shows. We don't know everything.
We're going to hear some really good stuff next week about the Folklore.
Cool.
A folklore, the Shawnee and the Wapa, and I don't know, there's 4 or 5 Native American tribes that have this folklore about the Pukwudgie, which is known as the trickster, and they're mostly in Northeast Ohio and Massachusetts. But our good friend Beth Grissom, she lives in Round Rock, Texas, and shocking, she must have taken them with her because they're in Round Rock, Texas. So we'll have a good time talking about that. I'm going to see if Bev will join us so we can ask her.
Do so.
That's right. But I had a good time doing research on this, and I am 100% a believer.
Yep, me too.
Well, what a great show this was, and thank you for Pat. He always forgets to say he's a host too, but he's also the producer and so I want him to take credit too.
I get some of the blame.
Well, we share the blame equal. After all, we're lore hunters. We can't always be right.
Yeah, that's right.
But we have fun doing the Lore Hunter show and seeing what's out there and what could be fact and what could be fiction. And we live to do another story next Sunday, same time.
That's right. And I do want to reach out and thank everybody that listened. I seen there was quite a few listeners and watchers as the shows were playing. I was doing some investigating, looking around, and we do have quite a few people watching. So if you're watching, awesome. Come back next week. We will be here. And tell your friends. It's more the merrier.
Absolutely. Yeah. We look forward to it.
Want to wrap it up, or should I do it?
Yeah, you do it.
You do it? Okay, I guess I can do that. I hope everybody enjoyed this week's show. We will be available on Spreaker and our normal podcasting channels here very shortly, probably sometime between today and tomorrow. If you've watched on Twitch or anything like that, give us a like, especially on Twitch. We could use the followers over there. So if you are seeing anything you like, give us a like wherever you're at, and we will see you next week. Have a good one.
See you next week. Thanks, Pat.
This has been a Crooked River Media production.